This is 1 billion lions versus junglers, according to lore. Let's get into it. Amumu. Amumu has a curse that prevents him from touching a living being, as far as we know. All we know of his curse is what we have seen through short stories, but what all those stories have in common is that him getting close to something equals death. And if you look at the cinematic, you get the sense that he's cursed by things in the shadows that don't want him to have friends, and that his destructive capabilities scale off of his sadness, like when you see him enter the village and he explodes. So the way I see it going down is that Amumu would try to befriend some of the lions. Even if they're a massive horde of lions, he would try to befriend some. He would end up killing a bunch of them and getting depressed, getting sad, getting anguished, and that would scale him to the point where his curse spreads violently and in outbursts, killing lions millions at a time. I do believe that the curse is that strong, and that whatever cursed him hates him that much. Belvth. Belvth is named after the town she assimilated. And when I mean assimilated, I mean that she absorbed the town and she has the memories of the town, and the members of the town now make up part of her void army and the memories within her. So when Kaisa goes to confront Belvth, you get the sense that while Belvth is really new, you get the sense that she has intelligence and intentions far beyond her relatively young age. But Belvth has a void army, she has supreme intelligence, a hive network type of intelligence with her army, and no sense of stamina or burning out. So with her already established assimilation powers, I believe she would just assimilate the army of lions and grow her side even stronger to deal with the rest of the lions. I just don't think it's fair. So a big part of this fight is stamina, because it is a bunch of lions. Briar is specifically constructed with the sole intention of building a Noxian warrior with no need for stamina. They could fight continuously. And how does she fight continuously? By going into a frenzy near blood. So I do believe while it is a bunch and a ton of lions, Briar could eventually come out clean. But you have to understand that this is a billion lions. If 1 in every 10 lions takes out a little chunk of her, she is ripped apart at the very end. No part of Briar's lore hints at her being indestructible. It's just like Sion. She would get ripped apart and she would be present in millions of lions' bodies to the point where her being undead or her being a golem doesn't really matter. Could she win? She would have to be so quick that every million of lions could not touch her, but she has the stamina to win. Diana. Her moonfall ability is actually canon. She calls down the powers of the moon to destroy an area of space. But the thing is, Diana is not the aspect of the moon. She is the aspect of the moon's host. So she does not have infinite stamina because she's not the concept or the celestial. She is still a mortal person with the supreme powers of the aspect of the moon. We have seen her fight void creatures that have hurt her. I believe there were about 5 or maybe 10 terrors. She was fighting alone and she was getting scratched up, she was getting bitten, she was getting hurt. So she's not invincible. Riot has gone back and forth on saying whether or not the void creatures are magic, but if they aren't magic, that lends credence to the lions being able to hurt her. And again, it is a billion lions, and aspect hosts do not have infinite stamina. These hosts scale off of their time and devotion to the aspect. So take Zoe for example, for the aspect of Twilight. Zoe has been the host for over 1,000 years, compared to Diana, who's been the host for about 60 years. Zoe also perfectly aligns with the ideals of the Twilight aspect. She's a trickster, she's a young person going through change. That is exactly what the Twilight aspect wants. Diana is conflicted in her ideals. She loves the Lunari, she wants to protect the Lunari, and she wants to seek harmony between the Lunari and the Solari, but she still holds on to past feelings for Leona. So she is a far, far away from being a perfect host. I just don't see her beating a billion lions, even if she calls upon the moon infinitely. I do think eventually she dies to lion. Ekko. Modern Ekko has only pretty much the arcane lore to go off of. In the old lore, he's just the absolute goat. He goes back in time all the time, and he has some of the more emotional stories in the lore because he's kind of a down-to-earth kid with some regular parents. But his main power, of course, is going back in time 4 seconds and trying to change the past. I believe he goes back in time more in the old lore, but modern lore, modern arcane Ekko has a 4-second limit. And you really see that in play in the final battle of Piltover, where he goes back in time over and over and over to dodge the evolved of Victor, to deliver the Z drive and explode it near Victor to win the day. But you see that he gets overwhelmed by those evolved creatures. So I do think eventually Ekko would get overwhelmed and eaten despite being able to go back in time 4 seconds. Elise, her power is being extremely old, being a manipulator, and being part of the Black Black Rose. Her ultimate power is transforming into a spider that we see in the bite mark cinematic. That spider is not large enough. It is not Ungoliath. You know that reference. It cannot beat a billion lions. Evelyn, she is possibly, we don't know this for sure. People like to pretend that they know what the demons are for sure because of a Fiddlesticks voice line. But her title is Agony's Embrace. Her demon title is likely a demon of agony or pain, but the demons have very specific titles. Like, we know the demon of fear is Fiddlesticks. We know that he is a supreme demon that controls the very broad concept of fear. But we also know of lesser demons that are like fear of failure, fear of failing your brother. It goes down to specifics like that. And we really see that in the Azakana Yone storyline. So while we know Evelyn is associated with pain and agony, we don't know how broad her concept is. Is she the very broad concept of all pain? That would make her very powerful. Or is she the concept of pain after lust? Or the concept of failed relationships? Or the concept of adultery? You know, it's just, how broad is she? How powerful is she? We just do not know. Also, between last video, I realized that there is a singular moment where someone with physical abilities defeated a demon. And that is when Mordekaiser, San Uzal, took up his mace and one-shot a lesser demon, Arakan, and knocked him out. I don't know how that scales demons. I don't really want to think about it too much. I think that Mordekaiser is just extremely powerful. I think San Uzal was just the guy, so I don't really want to apply that to a bunch of lines, but it should be known that that has happened, and I don't really have an explanation for it. Fiddlesticks is interesting, and there's no universe where I put him lower than the actual top, but you should know that Fiddlesticks is animalistic. I'm sure he has thoughts, being an ancient being, but he doesn't really act on them. It's almost like he chooses to be an animal, like a primordial animal. I don't know how to describe it better to you than he is a creature that acts solely on instinct and rips things apart in a way that maximizes fear. From what I understand, if Fiddlesticks had the intention or had the mind to maximize fear, like if his goal was to plunge the world into a state of constant and overwhelming fear, that he could, but he doesn't have that intention because he's animalistic. So if you understand that demons feed off of emotion, then it should be easy for you to understand that a primordial version of a demon is pure emotional instinct. He just goes off of what would make what's around him most fearful. He doesn't have like a plan. He doesn't scheme like Tom Kench schemes. He just wanders the world now that he's free again and intends to make what is around him fearful so that he can be satisfied, so that he could be fed, so that he could grow stronger, but not at a large planned scale, if that makes sense. Graves would go down fighting, but he would still go down. Hecarim is a ghoul specter, part of the Ruination. He was a renowned general of the Iron Order, but he got there through devious methods. He's always been a tricky, backstabbing, conniving guy. We have seen on multiple occasions physical weapons like guns being fired at these ghouls and going straight through them with no effect. So it's a question of how long could Hecarim the Ghoul swing his scythe at a horde of lions. If this is on the Shadow Isles, if this is on the Blessed Isles, I do think it would be forever. But when we see Hecarim in the harrowing, it does seem like there is a time limit on the harrowing and a time limit on the presence of these ghouls outside of the Blessed Isles. So Hecarim, who does not tire, who does not relent, would eventually, over decades evidently, cut down this horde of lions. But I do think that the harrowing or the Ruination curse eventually runs out and prevents Hecarim from fighting forever. Ivern is a nature spirit now. He is one with the Godwilla tree. Lions are natural beings, and lions are exactly what Ivern deals with on the daily basis. The Godwilla was a direct link to the natural spirit of Ionia. If you're wondering on what scale Ivern could connect to these beasts, it is a pretty massive scale, as the Godwilla was connected to the majority of life within Ionia. So I do think Ivern could, in some way, connect to all these lions and prevent them from ripping them apart. Jarvan the Fourth is one that I do clearly think would be lion food, but there are some people that pull up his in-game abilities from the Mage Seeker storyline and assume that he could jump down and create a crater. I have to help you understand that part of the abilities of the people in that game have to be made crazy in order to give the player a challenge. So when Garen fires down his ult a billion times in a Sylas fight, that isn't canon. Garen cannot just do that. Jarvan cannot just jump and cannot create a massive ring of rock like you see on Summoner's Rift. That is just not canon. He cannot do that. When I mentioned earlier that a bullet would pass through a specter, that was from a Karthus story, where a man on a ship tried to shoot Karthus and it went straight through him. Karthus is a special case because he has the sole intent of building an army to bring his gift of death to the mortal world. I do think he would win, because not only could lions not hurt him, they likely couldn't hurt his army either, and as they kill the lions, I do believe the lions would eventually add to his army, and there's just nothing the lions could do about it. Kayn is an awesome case because you have to think of it like this. Kayn is holding on to a darkened weapon. Shaida Kayn is still Kayn, the boy that Zed adopted. He is not a host for the Darken yet, but the closest he's been to being a host to the Darken, the most influence we've seen from him is when he's being violent. So in order to kill the lions, he would have to be violent. Will that push him even closer to being one with Rost? Would that eventually have him being a host for a Darken? And once he becomes the host for the Darken, then he scales infinitely off of Carnage. So do I think that Shaida Kayn, the Shadow Assassin, without Rost, would kill the lions? No, I think he would die like Zed. But I do think Shaida Kayn would use the weapon of Rost to kill the lions and lose himself and be absorbed by Rost the Darken, and then they would scale infinitely. So while that is all headcanon, that is genuinely how I see it happening, but I do have to put him in draw or toss up because that is just a lot of headcanon I made up. But we do see him getting closer to Rost the more violent he gets. Kha'Zix is a 1v1 specialist who evolves based on his prey. I don't know how we can evolve out of a billion lions. Think of it like this. His main opponent is Rengar, and Rengar, let's say, has the strength of a 10,000 lions. This is a billion lions. If he's going one-on-one struggling with Rengar, he's going to struggle with a billion or a million Rengars, right? Kindred was always going to be difficult to talk about, but not difficult to rank. Kindred is a spirit god of death. They are a reaper type of creature that shepherds the dead into the spirit realm, as far as we know. The lore of Kindred is very intentionally made mysterious, but we don't know much. But what we do know is that Kindred deals with death. Kindred is a spirit that cannot be harmed, and Wolf can harm you and is a massive wolf that will eventually cut through the lion horde, while Lamb also shoots him down, but they cannot be damaged. Even Tryndamere, who fights directly with Kindred in the Still Here cinematic, cannot hurt these creatures, and they don't have stamina, so it's an instant win. Lee Sin is awesome. He fights at lightning speeds, he summons the dragon spirit, and when he kicks you, he kicks the bones within your body into dust. But this is a billion lions. We have seen him tire. He does not have infinite stamina, and his main damage output is usually focused on a single target. But I do believe the dragon spirit can cause AoE damage, but it is not infinite, and the way he uses it and the way he has been forced to use it in the past has caused him great personal damage, like losing his eyesight. So I just do not see him having the full capability of beating a billion lions. Lilia is the dream of a tree, which sounds weird. So there's a tree called the Dreaming Tree, and that tree had a dream, and that dream became Lilia. Lilia's powers revolve around dream manipulation, dream observance, and kind of putting people to sleep. That flower in her head produces dream dust, and that dream dust can be used to induce sleep. I don't think that she has enough dust to put asleep a billion lions, and while she does have powers over nature, it is not to the extent of Ivern. She's just too young. I'm going to put her here, but I could hear arguments of putting her higher, but I don't really think so. This is the one that most people were waiting for. Master Yi, the absolute GOAT. You have to understand that Wuju, his sword art form, is magic. He is practically a mage with a sword. And let me read to you how his magic is described by an elder ancient spirit that would know his magic best. No armor can withstand the attacks by Master Wuju swordsman. As long as you draw enough power, you can indeed sunder a mountain, a forest, or even the entire world. But later on they say there is a limit to the amount of power humans can draw from the spirit realm. Thus, if you really meet an opponent like this, meaning an opponent very powerful, I suggest you run. You'll probably fail to even slice off a toenail. What that spirit is talking about are the Titans, and that spirit was talking to a very young Master Yi, who is now obviously a master. He was not a master at that time, but now he is, and now he has some incredible feats. So now I do believe that he can pull enough power to destroy a billion lions. But you have to understand that the style of Wuju pretty much calls for non-violence, and killing a bunch of natural animals would would go against their teachings, but so would him participating in the Noxian War. So it's not like he hasn't done it before. And when he has done it, he has still shown immense power by fighting through thousands of Noxians at blinding speeds, so much so they decided to gas his entire village. So now he's even older, now he's even more in tune with Wuju, now we could likely pull even more spirit magic, and we have seen him on even more occasions dash through his village at lightning speeds to clear vines. That's a different story. But he dashes very quickly still. He does not appear to have a sense for stamina and has immense magical capabilities. Again, if you leave with anything from this video, the sword is meaningless. He is a mage that channels his magic through swords. He's really cool. Nidalee, her power is transforming into a panther type being. I just don't think it's enough to fight off a billion lions. Nocturne is an ancient demon of nightmares. There's some fun theories that Zed will turn into Nocturne, which is amazing. I want to get into that eventually. But again, these are demons that cannot be really hurt and have not really been seen hurt by physical objects, except for Sanuzal, who is not just a normal human. He's a freak of nature, but I just don't think there is much lions can do. Nunu and Willump. I do think that eventually a billion lions would rip apart the big Yeti, but that's not the true power of this duo. They hold on to something called the Heart of the Blue, and that is the last remaining source of true ice that we know of. The Heart of the Blue has the powers to create true ice, which is very powerful. But while these two are holding it, it doesn't have the same amount of power if Lysandra was holding it. Lysandra had the ability in that moment to seal the Void Watchers in massive ice structures. That is not something that Nunu or Willump could do, but they have what it takes for Lysandra to be that powerful again. So do I think these two on their own could beat a billion lions? No, but they arguably have the most powerful object in the Freljord, given to the Yetis by Anivia herself. Nunu is called the Messiah of the Freljord. He will eventually save them by repairing the true ice barriers, but that is just not his job yet. He is not there yet. I have to put him here. Rammus the Goat, we really just do not know enough about him. I have to put him in draw and toss up, but he's not as big as you might think he is. He could be about the size of a SUV, like a bigger car, but he has been seen rolling through fortresses and causing those fortresses to shake. Another reason I put him here is he could be an Ascended, and he could be just choosing to be this nerf. He could also be a god of change, which would put him at 100% because he's a spirit and cannot be damaged. We have no idea what Rammus really is. I personally think he's a Bakai, meaning a failed Ascended that lost its mind and just eats beetles all day, but we don't know what he is. Rek'Sai, the queen of the Xursai. She is an interesting case. I don't think there are enough Xursai to fight off a billion lions, and herself would go down against a million lions, and there's 1,000 million in a billion. So I don't think there's enough of her army or enough of herself to fight off the lions. And she doesn't scale fast enough to counter the lions. She would grow bigger eventually, but the lions would not give her time to grow off of their flesh. Rengar could have the strength of 10,000 lions, but this is a billion lions, right? Rengar is extremely strong. He's an excellent hunter in a 1v1 sense, but this is 1 billion versus 1. Sejuani wields a true ice flail, and it's not just a singular target object. When she swings it, it causes ice to form in spikes, and she has been known to crush through shield walls all by herself. So while Sejuani could take on maybe 1,000 lions, this again is a billion lions, and they would overwhelm her eventually. She would tire eventually because she's an iceborn human, but she is still human in the end with defined stamina. Shaco, please don't get me started. We don't know what he is at all. He could be a demon of jokes. He could be a demon of laughter. Who knows what he is? But the best we understand Shaco to be is simply a comic, a comedian that killed some people. That is what his bio is hinting at. He is just a funny comedian that killed a couple people. We don't really know what he is. Shyvana is a dragon human hybrid, and while that is extremely powerful, this again is a billion lions, does not have infinite stamina. It's over. Skarner is a extremely ancient being, and while I still have his old profile picture, he's extremely massive. I'll put up a picture of him now. He has immense size, and on top of that immense size, he has supreme control over earthbending that has been practiced for thousands of years. He is extremely powerful, extremely smart, and knows just how to deal with hordes of creatures, as he has been prepared to fight the void for thousands of years. He's very powerful. Udyr at his best channels the spirits of the Freljord. My favorite Udyr moment is when he transforms into the avatar of the Ram, which is an avatar of Ornn, just to rage bait the avatar of the Volibear, because those two are enemies. Udyr is just a master rage baiter and will do anything to protect Sejuani, but I do think that it just is not enough to fight off the lions. Vi is an excellent fighter in a 1v1 sense, and she has her massive gauntlets, but it's just not enough. Viego is the grandfather, the father of the Ruination. He's the reason behind it. So if you want to give him his ghoul armies, that's great. If you don't want to give him his ghoul armies, he's still unable to be damaged by these lions. And he does grow more powerful the more he is killed. And before all of that, he was a great swordsman. He was the king of Camivore. And while he was not the best king, he was still a very formidable opponent. It's very easy for me to put him at the top. Warwick is like Rengar or Kha'Zix. If he has the strength of 1 million lions, which he doesn't, he is still getting swarmed and killed by 1 billion lions. No matter if he's the evolved form, the more Vander form, or his original pre-arcane form, he's getting killed. Xin Zhao. I say his name right because I made that 30-minute video on him. Xin Zhao is lion food. He's probably the best gladiator of all time, but he is just lion food. Zac, while he can't really be damaged, it seems, because the lion claw would just go through him, when he fights, he loses biomass. And I haven't really seen evidence that he can recover that biomass that easily. So while he would be able to kill a bunch of lions, it's not like in game where he can grow to gigantic sizes. He would eventually be spread apart too thin by 1 billion lions. That's my list. In the first video, I forgot Teemo, which really made me mad. So if I forgot anyone, I'm sorry. That's the video. Thanks for watching. The bot lane is coming soon.